Say hello to everybody.
Hello, Anthony, and good evening, citizens of Nye County.
Hi, Anthony. Thank you for having us on your program.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Anthony, the way I met Ross, of course, I've had dealings with him indirectly through the prison system when he was representing, working for other law firms as a legal researcher. But one of your listeners heard the show, and Ross is doing some legal research for him. And he says, you got to get hold of this Gary Walters. Well, Ross contacts another one of his friends, and it turns out his friend says, I know him, he's my friend. So Ross came over to the house the other day, and we visited, and I showed him an examination of all the documents that we have actually gathered for the 8.5 years of the research that I've done in order for us to even continue these conversations tonight. And I think he found it very intriguing and certainly fruitful, because the truth and the irrefutable evidence speaks for itself. What I've done to come to kind of a conclusion with you in these 4 weeks that we've done these shows, I took some dictations from The Authority of Law, written by Charlie Wiseman. He's kind of a mentor to me. And I'd like to share with the listeners some of these dictations, if I can. And this should really wake you folks up here in this conclusion of what we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks. We want to talk about the word treason. And this is, again, it's taken from The Authority of Law. And I encourage people, if they can get The Authority of Law, they can go on Amazon and even get the book. It's not very expensive at all. And it addresses the problems and issues and the illegalities that's going on in Nevada from page 17 to 19. So there's a lot of exposure there. And in that, these are the dictations that have come from that. So when we address the word treason, it's when the people have plainly expressed their will in Constitution, and for any authority to go against the will in the Constitution, that is treason. To assume jurisdiction in a case would result in treason where the Constitution is not adhered to. Chief Justice John Marshall once stated that we judges have no more right to decline the exercise of jurisdiction which is given than to usurp that which is not given. The one or the other would be the act of treason to the Constitution. And he cites Cohen versus Virginia, which goes all the way back to 1821, and this is Shepardized case laws. When you look at the judges of these courts here in Nye County, they took an oath to uphold and support the Constitution of Nevada. And their blatant disregard of that obligation and allegiance can only result in an action of treason. Now that's just facts. Don't shoot the messenger. Then we want to address the issue of tyranny. If the court and the judge residing, such as these judges, Weinker and Lane, departs from the clear meaning of the Constitution, it would be regarded as a blatant act of tyranny. Any type of exercise of power which is done without the support of law or beyond what the law allows is tyranny. And where the law ends, tyranny begins. And that's very important. And he cites Merritt versus Walsh, which is a 1981 Shepardized case. Now we move on to usurpation. For Judge Lane and Judge Wonker, now that they are aware of the irrefutable evidence that's actually been provided to them in court cases, it's been submitted to them in habeas corpuses, by which incidentally they flat out denied them. They allowed the DAs to put forth misrepresentations and fraud. I don't want to call them liars. That's not in my vocabulary to call a person a liar. I just say he misrepresents the truth, and we'll go on from there. I'll let the individual determine who's lying and who's not. But to take jurisdiction where it clearly does not exist is usurpation. And no one is bound to follow acts of usurpation. No citizen has to follow an act of usurpation. I don't care who they are. And in fact, it is the duty of the citizens to disregard and disobey them, since they are void and unenforceable.
Now the problem with that is, if you have somebody do that, they just lock you up and just hold you.
Well, that's when you got to turn around and sue them. You got to start these suits. You got to start turning these judges into defendants. And the minute you start turning them into defendants, then the Attorney General will step in and represent him. But guess what? He needs to defend somebody to defend him too, because you got to name him also. So if you go down the list, you start naming all these guys, and then when they go get a law firm to represent them, you got to sue them too for conspiring to cover up the usurpation.
Where do you go? You go to
So all of
court?
So all of a sudden you're going to find these lawyers saying, wait a minute, this guy's sue crazy. He'll sue me. I don't want him to go after my bond. I don't want him to go after my insurance. It'll raise my rates. I can't take your case. You better go see somebody else. That's the way in which you got to position yourself to let these people know, I'm going to follow you to the end of the earth. And I'm going to sue you all the way to the end of the earth. If I've got to go all the way to certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, you're going to go down for these acts that you committed. Now, to go on, no authority needs to be cited for the proposition that when a court lacks jurisdiction, any judgment that they have rendered is void and unenforceable. And they cite C. Hooker versus Bales. It's a 1965 federal case, so it's shepherdized. It is federally done. The failure to uphold these clear and plain provisions of our Constitution cannot be regarded as more mere than unjust judgment, but deliberate usurpation. Usurpation is defined as an unauthorized, arbitrary assumption and exercise of power. And if you look at the State ex rel versus Danielson versus the Village of Mound, that's in 1951. While error is only avoidable, usurpation is void.
There's one thing I wanted to just bring out is people that are listening are going to say, well, I don't have the money to sue them. I don't know how to do the paperwork.
They got to file their informer paupers and do an affidavit and to show that they don't have the financial capability of that.
Right, but then who helps them?
Well, the law allows them to provide for that, and I'm going to let Ross address some of those issues because he's more of a legal researcher in that area, and he's worked for law firms. I'll get through this, and then we'll introduce Ross, and we'll let him answer some of your questions. The perjury is a judge's oath and swear under the oath of office. It's done under their signature of their oath of office. Judges sworn to uphold and protect and obey the state and federal constitutions. When they violate that, they have done the same thing as a witness getting on a witness stand and committing acts of perjury. And no one has immunity from acts of perjury. There's 4 years in state prison or jail and a $5,000 fine.
So that means when Wonka turns around and falsifies documents to an appeal court or a Supreme Court, she's committing perjury.
Well, not only that, she has a problem of malfeasance of office violations, malfeasance. She has misfeasance and nonfeasance, and putting and conducting unlawful imprisonments of mental anguish and pain and suffering, and causes all this by this petitioner or this individual incarcerated. That all needs to be brought to the forefront. The court must avoid these severe consequences and not violate the mandatory commands of the Nevada Constitution. They've got to uphold that. They cannot sit there and continue to make their own bench laws and their own threats that I'm God Almighty because I wear the cloak. I'll tell you, I'm going to lock my doors. I'm going to strip you down. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that to you. I've got my 45 back here. I'll use it on you.
Oh, she does all the time.
All those types of threats have never been challenged. That if I threaten you, all you got to do is go down and make a police report, and there's an investigation. I have a problem, right? They're going to come raid my house, take my guns. They're going to do all kinds of things to me. But if they do it, it's okay. That's not okay. You got judges doing foul things behind the scene that are unthinkable. And all of this has to stop. Now you got the word accessory. After the facts are known that the irrefutable evidence and factual proofs have been submitted to a court and the judge residing has been presented the decades of the stealth fraud and the ongoing long-arm fraud, once it's now been made known and disclosed that the factual showing that a petitioner has submitted that to the residing judge, he now becomes an accessory to that stealth fraud and the decades of that stealth fraud and the ongoing long-arm fraud. Now, when I talk about long-arm fraud, it's this. What those corrupt individuals did in 1951 to create these statute books called the NRS statute books, sell them off and pocket the money, and then go all the way along and continue to strip the legislature and the other branches of government's power to create this fourth level of government, the dark government that you, shadow government that you talk about, the Legislative Council Bureau, is shameful. Now you've got Marilyn Kilpatrick, who just took over Tom Collins' place, and she's running against Ross Miller. She's running against Ross Miller. Now this lady was the chairman of the Legislative Committee, and she knowingly knew that that committee engaged in a private contract with the LCV, right, and basically gave our government away to them. Gave the citizens' government to the LCV in a private contract by which she entered into with a gentleman by the name of Rick Combs, and I don't know if he's a gentleman or not, wears nice suits, got a nice smile, bald head, slick back. But when you look at all that and how she engaged in that contract with them and the Legislative Chiefs Litigation Council, none of these people bearing the name legislative have any direct connection to the legislature. That is false. So they call themselves the Legislative Council Bureau. That is all false. Now, she beat Steve Ross in the primary. Marilyn Kilpatrick did. All right? That's going to be real shameful, folks, if that lady gets in power. You talk about going backwards. We're really going to be like cattle, you know, and they're going to put us in a sheep's bin. So we're going to be mixed up with sheep, and we're going to have the sheep and the cattle being led to slaughter. And these people are thieves, and they need to be stopped. So your votes count. I don't try and throw stones at anybody. I have, maybe it's shameful of me, but I've never voted. I've always tried to be for the winner, and I've always tried to respect the winner. But I'm going to tell you folks something. I don't have no respect for none of these people running for government in the state of Nevada. And it would be shameful of you to even elect them into that position, because you're going to get what they dish out. And when you find out what I found out, and you read these documents, or you get your hands on these documents, I'm telling you, it's worth an uproar. So let me go on to...
1 second, I have a caller. I'm going to bring him on and see what he needs. Go ahead, caller. Hey, Louie, how you doing? That's Brennan, right?
Yeah, I would like to expand on that.
Yeah, he can hear you.
We appreciate that call, and it's valid of what you say. And because of people like you validating what we've experienced, we're trying a new twist. We have families in other states that have hired law firms. This is going on right now. And they are going into federal courts in those states. And they are filing against the state of Nevada and all of its public officials, so that in federal courts, so that these state officials will now become defendants, and they will have to go into those other federal courts in those states and get representation. And they have a huge problem coming at them, because those federal judges in those other states see what's going on in this rogue state and how it's gotten out of control in the United States of America, how Nevada has totally violated the rights of not only its citizens, but those that possess green cards, those that are here illegally. It doesn't matter who you are. Even your dog will be shot by them. This is all going to turn around, and you're going to find that a lot of these officials are held accountable. Let me give you an example. There's a prosecutor in North Carolina. He lied, and he caused a man to get convicted to life. And I can get you the documents. That prosecutor is sitting 5 years in the federal penitentiary right now. So what I'm trying to tell you, they're getting ready to have a whole new world happen for them that they can't adjust to, because the good old boys are about to be broken up, and they're going to find themselves in other states, if not other countries. They might even find themselves being faced with the International Court of Justice, because under certain acts of the Alien Torture Tort Claim Act, Section 1350, and there's Greco involved, because they're continuing to do this against persons that are from other countries. They could find themselves in The Hague in the International Court of Justice, standing before an International Court of Justice. And let me tell you, I don't think they can stand that kind of heat.
See, the whole thing here is, I mean, this all sounds well and good, and I know it can happen, but we have to work on one of them so we can prove that we can get this done, so we can get people on board. That's what the problem is. These people are in fear. They're worried about everything. Business people don't say anything about the government here because they're afraid they get put out of business. If you're not in a certain clique here, they're going to bury you. Look at me. I'm out 600 grand. How much are you out? Millions.
Oh.
Right? And you're still
Awful.
fighting. There's the problem. And people are afraid. I mean, I'm getting mothers calling up crying that their children, they're afraid their children are going to die. We just had somebody die in jail within the last 10 days. And I don't even know how it happened. They found him laying on the floor. You know, that's it. All of a sudden everything gets squashed. The news media, I've been to the papers with the information you gave me. I went to the local TV station. Turned around and said, my show is too small. I need you in here. I just saw him at the festival yesterday. Turned around and told him, did you look at Cody? Yeah, I've been busy with the parade. They're afraid. The people here are living under tyranny. And we have to stop it.
I've been contacted by an outfit that does a show on Tuesday nights called Frontline in Arlington, Virginia. And they are investigating doing a whole documentary on Nevada. When that kind of stuff breaks, incidentally, there's an investigator with TMZ, with Harvey Levin, that wants me to come and visit with him. I'm here to tell you that this thing is gaining momentum. It's like a little snowball, and it's building and building and building. And let me tell you, before it's over, that snowball will cover the whole state of Nevada. And there are going to be a whole lot of officials that are going to answer up. Even those that think they've retired and got away with a lot of it, they're going to have to come back, because the haunting's going to come down on them too. There's nothing I'm scared of.
And that's the whole thing. We got to make sure that there's no place they can hide that we can get them.
Well, it's now getting out of our hands, and it's moving to Washington. And it's even moving on the international scene. We're in touch with AG Associates. They're lawyers of international distinction based in London, England, Sir Dr. Rodney Daniels. They're taking a whole look at Nevada, and I'm here to tell you, there is some severe consequences coming after these people that they are clueless of. So exercise what power you may think you have. Step on the people that are yelling and screaming, wanting truth and wanting honesty and wanting fair justice. Do all you think you can do, because the payday is coming soon. And when it does, these newspapers and world media are going to grab you, and they're going to destroy you like you have done these little people and these citizens in this state. And you have done irreparable damage that you will pay the consequences for. That's coming.
And it couldn't come fast enough for me, I'll tell you that.
No. It's just like the wheels of justice. When they say they turn slowly. But when they turn, they do turn, and they do accelerate. And that acceleration is going to happen. Now I want to turn and talk about something. I just had an experience with the BLM. Coming out of being incarcerated, having to accept a Alford plea, which means you don't have to admit the guilt. But it's the way they can stick it on you, so they think that they have no obligation, and they're safe, and you can't sue them or come after them. But I got news for them. In going to the BLM, I owned some gold mines before I got hemmed up, and I kept them up. And some of those mines were passed down to me through the Hughes family. And one of these mines happened to be in what's now called the Mormon Environmental Basin. Yeah,
What is that?
they called it Mormon Environmental Basin. It was a Harry Reid special, just passed a few years ago. And what that does, that shafts everybody that owns mining rights in the Moapa area, in that Mormon basin area, environmental basin area. Now, I spent $2 million drilling 185 holes in that area, getting the assays, hiring geologists. In fact, one of my top geologists was Dr. Finch. Dr. Finch was 35 years with Howard Hughes. So he's an older fella, but he is still well distinguished and well regarded as one of the top geologists under him and P.T. Burton and Dr. Nicholson. Dr. Nicholson was killed in a car accident not long ago. But anyway, I had an old man who believed in me and stuck by me. His name was Morton Freeberg. He passed away about a year and a half ago of pneumonia. He was 86 years old. He kept those leases up for me, and because that lease had expired and came due, Harry Reid's little shenanigans caused him to try and shaft me out of those mineral rights and those leases. So in talking my conversation with Ross, which we had hours of conversation, we thought it was only going to last a few minutes, hi, shake hands, but as we got talking, we found out how interesting both of us were, and some of the causes and some of the effects of those causes we could bring back and revive. So in meeting with the BLM, I did find some friendly folks in there, and she's the director of that BLM here in Nevada, and she indicated to me that I may have an opportunity to file an exception and explain myself. Well, the court had found that I had ineffective counsel on February the 9th. They granted the Alford plea, and they gave me my time served, and that's why I'm out today. But it took me 8.5 years of fighting and being put in prison for forgery of real estate deeds and going to a recorder's office and record them. I've never been to a recorder's office in my life and couldn't even tell you how to get there. But they gave me a death sentence of 28 years, 64 years, and it took me almost 9 years to give it back. However, in the interim of doing that, I made the biggest legal find in Nevada history. And then hearing from you, from Kathy Robbins, one of the people that you know, that brought us to this point. And these doors are opening, and we're going to get bigger people because we're speaking the truth. There's nothing sugar-coated, and there's nothing about it. I have been advised, oh, you got to be careful, they're going to come after you. Well, folks, I'm easy to find. I'm not hiding from anybody. I've had a great life, and if the Lord calls on me, so be it. Put me back in a hole, give me a pen and paper, I'm still coming after you. I'm coming after you until my last breath on this earth, and even then I'm going to come to haunt you as a ghost if you believe in the reincarnation. So I'm not done. That's where I'm at, and that is my conviction, that is my commitment, and I'm going to get it done. These folks that are sitting up there in abuse of their power and authority, you're going to experience what power and authority is. And it's going to override anything you think you can do. So you just keep on doing what you're doing and just keep stacking it up. Every day you sit on that bench, every minute you commit an act of treason, every minute you commit an act of tyranny, every minute you commit an act of usurpation, and every minute you commit an act of perjury of your own oath of office and your oath and swear, you are going to stand accountable. You're going to not only stand accountable to these citizens, but you're going to stand accountable to the United States citizens, and you're going to stand accountable to the world. That's what I have to say.
We have to get that done because these people destroy people here and they just laugh. They enjoy it. I think they really enjoy destroying people's lives. So
Now there's a person named Kevin Williams who's running against Kirkpatrick. I don't know that much about Kevin, but I'll tell you something. He's not contaminated, and he's young, and he's not with the good old boys. And that's what the citizens better be looking at when it comes to him versus Kirkpatrick. And there's nothing in it for me. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm for the winner, and I support the winner. If we elect the President of the United States and it becomes Hillary, or if it becomes Donald Trump, I will owe my allegiance to that president and respect him and try and do the best I can rather than deteriorate or detract from him. But if he does things that are unlawful, and are not succinct to our thoughts of our Constitution. I think of our Constitution. Protect our Constitution, which protects our citizens. If you don't protect that, you're not a citizen at all. You just think you are.
Oh, you're just a slave.
You're
Without the Constitution, you're a slave.
Hey, Anthony, we all still live in a cave, and the only thing that's grown out of this cave on this earth is technology. We're still all walking on shaky ground, and we don't know when it's coming. Just like they don't know when it's coming. But I got an inkling, and I got a feeling from the people that I've talked to, and the documents that have been sent all over the place, so they can't stop that no more. It's out of their control. The 1st of January, Governor Brian Sandoval signed into law that inmates can no longer have access to public government records. And they're trying to do that to the citizens as well. You got to stop that kind of crap. You got to make all the records come out of the LCB and put back under the Secretary of State as Article 5, Section 20 of the Constitution mandates and commands. Not some NRS they wrote that allows them to be stripped of it. That's where I'm at.
Okay, we'll be right back.